Care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Most people don't even realize how often they're adjusting themselves just to be liked. And I'm not talking about big dramatic moments, I mean the small things. Like, you walk into a room and you instantly scan the vibe. You try to read the people, the energy, and without even noticing, you change a little. You hold back a thought. You laugh a bit softer. You kind of become smaller. And the thing is, it's not even intentional. It just happens. Because we're so wired to be accepted, to belong, that we start editing ourselves, little by little. And the more you do that, the more you realize you're living in their world, not yours. Like, how messed up is that? You're you, but you're filtering yourself based on how someone else might feel about it. People you barely know, sometimes people who don't even matter that much, but their imaginary opinion, it still runs the show. And here's where it gets deeper. Once you start doing this enough times, it becomes automatic. You don't even know what your actual opinion is anymore. You're constantly performing, and that act becomes the default. That's when you've given your power away, until you wake up one day and feel like you've lost the connection to yourself. You ever notice how some people will give you advice or feedback and it just doesn't sit right? Like someone tells you you're being unrealistic when you're actually just dreaming bigger than they ever have. Or they tell you you've changed, but the truth is, you just stopped playing small for them. It's not always about you. In fact, most of the time, it's not. People project, constantly. They throw their fears on you, their limitations, their doubts. You talk about wanting to start a business or move somewhere new, and suddenly it triggers their stuff. Maybe they never had the courage to do it. Maybe they still don't. They say, that sounds risky. Because if you pull it off, it challenges the story they've been telling themselves their whole life. That this is just how life is. That people like us don't do things like that. And look, I'm not even mad at them. We all do it to some extent, right? We all carry baggage, we all see through the lens of our own experiences. But the problem starts when we start believing the reflections people throw at us. You talk about love to someone who's only known pain, and they tell you you're naive. You'll start absorbing it. You'll start thinking maybe they're right, maybe I'm not ready, maybe I should tone it down a bit. You're not crazy, you're not too much, you're not going too fast. You're just finally living in a way that doesn't match their comfort zone. And instead of facing their own discomfort, they try to shrink you to make it easier to watch. That's why you gotta be careful about how much weight you give to people's opinions. Not because you're arrogant, but because you know how heavy projections can be. And if you carry them around for too long, you start mistaking them for your own thoughts. Let's be honest. Most of the people we're so worried about, they only know fragments of us. They know a version of you they saw once, or maybe a version you showed when you weren't even feeling like yourself. They know a moment, a post, a reaction. Maybe something you did 2 years ago when you were in survival mode and just trying to keep it together. And that's the version they judge. That's the version they create a whole opinion around. Like they've figured you out. But they don't know the nights you didn't sleep. They don't know what you're carrying behind your smile. They don't know how many things you've had to unlearn just to get here. They don't see the whole picture. And they never will. And the craziest part is, you're evolving every day. So even if someone did know the old you, they still don't know who you're becoming now. They're looking through an outdated lens, and you're busy rewriting the whole story. That's why caring what they think makes no sense, because they're forming opinions based on echoes, old noise, assumptions, snapshots. And yet we let those shallow impressions shape our self-worth. It's like handing someone a single puzzle piece and letting them judge the whole picture. They don't get it, not because they're mean or dumb or toxic, just because They're not inside your head. They're not on your path. They haven't walked in your skin. So when you start feeling that pressure, pause. Ask yourself, do they actually know me? Or just a version of me that isn't even real anymore? You don't owe explanations for your healing. You don't need approval to grow. And you definitely don't need to carry opinions built from fragments when you're busy becoming whole. How many people in your life used to think one way about you, and now they've completely changed their mind? Or maybe you thought someone didn't like you, and later they acted like your biggest fan. Or the other way around. It's wild how fast people flip. That's why it's dangerous to live your life based on opinions, because opinions are unstable. They shift. They evolve. Sometimes overnight. You could spend months shaping yourself around what one person thinks of you, only for them to forget it entirely the next week. You could shrink yourself to stay likable, and the person you were trying to impress might not even remember what you said a month later. People are busy. They're distracted. Half the time, they're thinking about themselves, not you. And the few that are watching closely, they're watching from their own lens, their own mood, their own story, which means their opinion isn't rooted in who you are. It's rooted in who they are in that moment. So now think about this. Are you really going to let something that temporary control the way you live? Are you going to keep bending and adjusting yourself for an audience that might not even be watching anymore? It's not worth it. Because even if you get their approval, it doesn't last. People move on, trends change, crowds shift. What they love today, they'll mock tomorrow. You can't build your identity on something that flimsy. You have to decide who you are before the world decides for you. Because if you don't, you'll end up constantly updating yourself for people who don't even know what they want. Stop caring what they think, because what they think is a moving target. And you've got better things to do than chase something that can't sit still. Here's something people don't talk about enough. Every time you shapeshift to please someone who doesn't really get you, you risk pushing away the people who would get you. It's like, imagine someone out there is actually on your wavelength. They'd vibe with your humor, your weird quirks, your way of seeing the world. But when they meet you, you're not being that version of yourself. You're being a polished version, a careful version, a version trying to get approval from a totally different audience. So now that person never sees the real you. They walk away thinking, I don't know, didn't feel that deep. When really, you are that deep. They just didn't get to meet the you that wasn't busy performing. And that's the trap. Trying to be liked by everyone waters you down to the point where no one truly connects with you. The people you really admire, the ones who stick in your mind or make you feel something, they're usually not the ones trying to blend in. They're the ones who stand in their truth, even if it's weird, even if it's loud, even if it's quiet. They don't adjust themselves to fit. They let the right people find them as they are. You deserve that too. But you only get that when you stop trying to be universal and start being real. Because if you're always trying to impress the wrong crowd, the kind of crowd that only accepts the filtered version of you, you'll miss out on your actual people. The ones who would have seen you, the ones who would have said, damn, I feel that too. And those people, that kind of connection, you don't find that by being safe. You find that by being you. There's something really exhausting about always wondering how you're being perceived. Like even if no one says anything directly, your mind starts filling in the blanks. Did I come off weird just now? Did they misinterpret that text? Should I have explained myself better? And you end up in this loop, constantly running mental PR for yourself, constantly trying to make sure nobody misunderstands you, nobody judges you, nobody sees you in the wrong light. But here's the problem with that. Perception isn't something you can control. It's not yours, it's theirs. And people are going to see what they want to see. You can say the right thing with the right tone and still get misunderstood. You can pour your heart out and still be told you're doing too much. You can pull back and be told you're distant. At some point you realize there's no peace in chasing approval. There's just more chasing. And that's what most people don't get. Caring what they think isn't just about validation. It's about this deeper fear, the fear of being misread, of being disliked, of not being enough. So what do? We tweak. We explain. We soften. We constantly edit ourselves. And even then, it's never enough. You might get temporary relief, but that's not peace. That's just survival. Real peace comes when you accept that some people will misunderstand you. And that doesn't mean you failed. That just means you're not bending anymore. You're not walking around with 1,000 invisible strings, trying to pull every single one in the right direction. You're letting people see you and letting them feel however they feel. Because at the end of the day, if you have to shapeshift just to be accepted, you're not really being accepted. You're just being tolerated for the mask you're wearing. Stop caring what they think, because it's the only way to actually breathe. At the end of the day, this is your life, your path, your mistakes, your growth, your peace. And the more time you spend worrying what they think, the more disconnected you get from what you think, from your own instincts, from your own values. Because let's be real, the people you're worried about, they're not going to live the consequences of your choices. They're not going to wake up next to your regrets. They're not going to carry your stress, or your joy, or your fulfillment. You are. So if they don't live with the outcomes, why are they controlling the decisions? You weren't born to be someone's idea of acceptable. You weren't meant to play a role in someone else's version of how things should be. You're meant to explore your own truth, to learn through your own experiences, to mess up, evolve, try again, and become someone you can be proud of, even if no one claps for it. And I get it. It's scary to let go of that need to be liked. It feels safer to blend in, to follow the script, to not rock the boat. But at some point, that safety turns into silence. You start disappearing in your own life, and that's not what you're here for. You're here to live with your eyes open, to say things that matter to you, to show up in a way that feels aligned, even if it's not popular, even if it confuses people, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Because the truth is, you don't need their permission to be yourself. You never did. So yeah, final reason. You've got one life. Don't waste it living out theirs.